Meeting of the Board of Public Works to order here at 5:32. Board members tonight, Kim is in the chambers with myself, Dave Herbst. Sarah Schroeder is on Zoom along with Michael Granetsky. So we have 4 of the 5 along with city engineer Mike here. So call the meeting to order. First order of business is public appearances for non-agenda items. We see no one from the public. You weren't aware of anyone coming, were you, Mike? Okay. So our next would be approval of the May 4th, 2020 meeting minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Kim. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Sarah. Okay. Discussion.
I have one item, my name is spelled wrong under the members present, but that's not unusual because the B and the D together are always complicating to people. So it should be Lobdell instead of just Lobel.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what is the correct pronunciation of your last name? Just so
Lobdell.
Lobdell.
Yep.
Okay, just like it.
Yep, just like it likes.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. So any other additions or changes to the minutes? Okay. So we'll assume that change. All in favor of approving the minutes of the May 4th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. My computer just restarted here, so. Yeah, could you pass that over to me? Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Okay. All right, next on our agenda is a review of the March P-card purchases and April checks. So does anyone have any questions? Okay, I had one, Mike. My computer's still coming up, but the uniforms that the Cintas, is that per our contract, the guys purchased the uniforms through Cintas?
Correct, and they
Okay.
launder them and take care of them.
Okay.
Yep,
So which employees does that cover? Is it streets and parks, water, all Board of Public Works
all
employees?
Public Works employees, so that, when you see all those, that's the whole gambit of field employees.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Give me 1 minute. I did have one other question. Take me a second to page down.
So how do we know what is a P card and what is a check? Does it matter?
That's a good question on this.
A P card, you said, is just like a credit card?
It's a
I'm
credit
not
card
familiar with that.
purchase. Yep.
Correct, Kim.
Okay.
Oh, I keep restarting. I'm not sure what's going on.
These are all P cards, by the way, so that's why you can't tell the difference.
Okay.
I think they would list them differently.
Okay, I thought maybe they would, but it was, I didn't know.
Anyone else? Michael, Sarah, have any questions? Okay. Then we'll move on to the next agenda items. The report from our,
I think you just review them. No,
it's just a review.
finance
yeah.
actually approves them,
Yeah,
it's just
that
for questions and.
Kim, we used to have approval on those, and now with the P-card purchases, it's just a review. So that was a change a few years ago. All right, next, report from our Director of Public Works.
Okay, I'll kind of go through them pretty rapidly, but Fish Hatchery Road still continuing on, a lot going on. Again, traffic varies wildly out there, but has been helpful. The traffic overall has been down. Lots of utilities still moving things, but I think that project seems like it's progressing pretty nicely. I don't see any big hiccups right now. This rain is slowing us down a little bit, but overall it's been a good spring. Crescent Crossing, that's one of the developments out there on Seminole and Lacey. That's gonna start up later this week, and they're gonna have a couple weeks of moving earth, and then hopefully probably the first week in June, in that neighborhood, they'll start doing the utilities, water, sewer, and storm sewer. Central Park Place, they're doing the televising, pressure testing, running the mandrel through utilities, so doing all the testing of the utilities out there. They have just a little bit of storm sewer left. They should finish that this week. Then all the utilities would be completed. Fahey, Glen, Promega were scheduled to be paving surface today. Obviously, that didn't happen with the weather, but they had it set up for a closure for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so hopefully good weather tomorrow and Wednesday should be able to get surface paved on that project. Commerce Park Drive, I think they should be, if they're not done now, they should finish up sanitary sewer soon, and they should be starting water main this week on Commerce Park Drive. Terra Vesa, we're trying to get things ready for public acceptance of public improvements. That should go to the next council meeting for acceptance of public improvements. And people are getting ready to move into some houses out there. They want occupancy, so that looks to be in pretty good shape. I think the juice plant, they're getting ready to go vertical. So I think they have most of their foundation work done, and that's right across from the Plesco Apartments on Fish Hatchery. McKee Road, both state and city portion, those are the ones that we're having the most difficult with utility conflicts on. A lot of utilities still to get out of the way, and some still being resolved as we speak. So that's something that could have an implication. We don't know exactly what that is. We're gonna be scheduling a meeting to talk about the implications of some of those utility delays. Sub-Zero Stoner Prairie Stormwater Plan. As you'll see, we've got a pumping plan on the agenda tonight. That's a temporary, it's not a permanent, at least initially not, designed to be a permanent thing. It's for us to be able to study how the water reacts, how much water there is, what the interaction with the groundwater is, how much groundwater are we talking about potentially. Lake Barney, we had our first meeting with the new consultant on board, and that seemed to progress nicely, so I think that's gonna continue without any big hiccups. I think we're gonna be ahead of schedule on that project. It seems like all the stakeholders are kind of in line and ready to go, so that's a good thing. Cyan Road construction, we had the RFPs and we had the interviews. We've made a selection and we're gonna be negotiating that contract, I think, Wednesday. Crack filling bids have been awarded. Seal coating, that's today. Resurfacing, we're preparing the bids for that. Northeast Water Main Loop, that's the one, I think I talked to you guys about it last time, up on Clayton to get up to Terra Vesa. And then I met again out there at the gate stations, and we talked about that last time there by Lacey and Seminole, the gas gate stations, to talk about maybe some aesthetic improvements. I think those are the biggest ones that I had on my list. If there's any questions or.
So Mike, on McKee, right where the bike trail crosses, the work has been concentrated there, and maybe Kim can chime in here too. They got a big hole. I try to walk by and look every day, what's under there that they have to move. There's more than one thing I know, but.
At the bike trail, you mean the one that's closed?
Yes.
That bike
yeah.
trail?
So the road is, they
That's
gotta cut
probably,
open there.
it's probably utility work.
Yeah, what's being,
I think that's utility relocation work.
okay.
If I remember, if I know where you're talking about, it's the overpass is down further, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit, so, although, no, wait a minute here. That is actually, they did bring the crane in today, so they are starting to do those pilings and for the footers for the
Okay,
overpass,
that's
so.
probably what that is.
Yeah, and I think I tried to clarify with you guys, that trail is officially closed.
Yeah.
Although we do, and we're trying to reach out to the bike clubs and that, because a lot of people are still using it, even though it's posted closed, and it's not a great situation, and it's not a good place for them to be crossing, for sure. So, I know Bill reached out to some of the bike clubs to try to get them to reach out to their group, groups and tell them to please not use it while it's under construction.
Any other questions for Mike? A lot going on, that's a lot, that's a mouthful. That's one of the longer list of activities at one time.
Then I have one more update, and it's probably a bittersweet one, and I wanted to let you guys know in person. I think maybe Sarah knows, maybe not. I don't know if it was brought up at council, but I did, unfortunately, received a job offer, and so this will be my last Board of Public Works meeting. I'll be honest, I didn't pursue anything. I didn't ever look for work. Someone just called me up and gave me an offer, and it's a mile from my house, so it's pretty difficult one to turn down. But everybody here has been really good to work with, and I just appreciate all the support that you guys gave me for the short while I was here.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that, but certainly understandable. It's a lot of time out of your life, hour and a half every day you're on the road, so we certainly understand that, Mike. Thank you. Thank you.
I want to know if we can reject the acceptance of your resignation.
Pat proposed that as well.
Yes. All right.
Just in light of that, do you know what the timeline is for looking for someone else, or who's going to be the interim, Mike?
I know that they've posted it internally, and I think that posting is up the middle or end of this week. So as soon as they get done with the internal posting, then they would post if nobody applies or is viable. And my last day is my last physical day here is next Thursday, but I am working through Friday, but I'm just off that day.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Mike? All right.
Missed.
Move on to our first agenda item here, Resolution R 98-20, authorizing acceptance of the 2020 chip sealing program bid. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Sarah. Discussion, Mike?
Yeah, so this is annual maintenance. It's budgeted. We made sure that anybody in the area that does this type of work was notified. We published the bids, both in the paper and then on Quest CDN. We got 2 bids. Scott Construction was the low bidder with a bid of $143,424.68. Farner had a bid of $152,776.52, and our estimate was $157,735. So we came in under bid, so that was good news. Maybe with just the fuel prices being down, are helping a little bit. So it's our recommendation to award the 2020 chip sealing bid to Scott Construction in the amount of $143,424.68, with the addition of $3,000 of contingency money.
Have they done this work for us before?
I'm not specifically sure if they've done it for Fitchburg, but I've worked with them on other municipalities. They've done a lot of chip sealing work around.
Okay. They have quite a extensive list of equipment.
Yes,
Or of projects they've done.
And good reputation.
Okay. I looked at the proposals, there wasn't one thing. It seemed like they were a little less money, pretty much all the way across the board. If there was one thing that, there was only one, but it seemed like all their costs were lower.
It looked like they just had a little bit lower unit price.
Any questions? Sarah?
Yeah, sorry, just because of being new, I was curious, are the roads kind of evaluated on an annual basis and it's just on a needs kind of decision?
Correct. What we do is we give them a rating, and for chip sealing, the street has to rate fairly decent, usually between a 7 and an 8, or 6.5 to an 8.5, because it's not a structural fix. It really is just sealing up the cracks and putting a new wearing surface on, trying to extend the life of the pavement. So they are evaluated. We have to turn in evaluations every 2 years to the DOT as part of our funding mechanism, but then we look at them every year to see before we pick the chip sealing projects.
Thank you. And then are the neighborhoods alerted, or is it just kind of posted where the roads are going to be?
Usually we post them beforehand that they're going to be chip sealing in that area. And usually they can get in and out. It can be difficult for that day. But it's usually, as soon as you get the chips on them and they get rolled, you can get back on them with traffic. It's not the slurry seal where they're closed down for a full day and you can't travel on it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is it typical to have the stockpile area in McGaw Park?
It's a Good question. I don't know the
Okay.
answer to that, Kim.
I thought that was a little unusual, but
No, I haven't seen it before, but. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, then we'll move to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 98-20 signify by saying aye.
aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next on agenda, Resolution R 99-20, approval of public sidewalk easements and public utility easements adjacent to 2019 Uptown Improvements Project. I have a for approval of Resolution R 99-20.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Granetsky. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Kim. Discussion. Seems like there's quite a few here. Would this be typical that there'd be this many requests, at this point in the project, Mike?
Most of them are pretty typical. There's one, the sidewalk one probably should have got picked up at the plating time. It's a corner, and it's, the corner was squared, and to get the width of sidewalk we need there, we need a little bit of an easement, so we just did it as long as we're doing these. So what these are is, a couple of them are for transformers. One is for the transformer that will run for one streetlights, but also the railroad signals. So we kind of wait until we find out what the railroad wants, where they're we gotta know where they're putting their cabinet, those kind of things. And then we located this in that area. And then the other thing is, this is in a smart code area. So none of the transformers in that can be on the front lines. So sometimes you wait a little bit because you're hoping they have more of a defined development as to where you want to put these utilities and transformers, because you could run the risk of putting it where it's in the way. So we try to do them close to like a stormwater facility or other public improvements, so that they wouldn't be somewhere where someone was going to be building tight to it. And then the other is, just because of it being smart code and the buildings are fairly close, we've got to have a little bit of room for utilities. And so and there's mapping if you want to look at each one, but we've kind of gone over it with a fine tooth comb. It's pretty standard.
We don't own those transformers, do we?
We do not.
Okay,
Nope, they're MG&Es.
okay. Any questions? Sarah, Michael, Jim? I don't have any. A lot of detail, a lot of surveying, took a lot of work to put that together. Thank you. All right, then we'll move to voting. All in favor of Resolution R-99-20 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sarah, and are you guys on mute? I didn't hear you. Sarah?
Aye.
Oh, okay. All right, carries unanimously. Next, Resolution R-100-20, approving design contract with KL Engineering for the design of County Highway McCoy Road intersection signal improvements. I have a motion to approve resolution.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Granetsky. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second, thank you.
And I would like to recuse myself from this item of discussion.
Sounds good, thank you. Note that Kim has accused herself being an employee of the company being awarded the bid, or the owner of the company. All right, Mike, you want to give us the background?
Yeah, so this project was actually scheduled to be built this year, and it's 2 legs of the intersection are under county jurisdiction and 1 leg is under city jurisdiction. And we started scoping for the construction with the county. The county really wanted to add some scope to the project. Well, we didn't have the budget, so we proposed to write a HSIP grant. It's a Highway Safety Improvement Program grant. And we hired a couple people to help us write that grant application. And we did officially get the award notice today. I didn't bring it with me. I should have printed it. I already had my laptop ready to take home for the night. But we did get the grant, and KL was one of the firms that helped us actually with the preliminary design as part of the application for the HSIP grant. The good news is that grant will pay 90% of the construction costs, and then the design and the other 10% get split. 2/3 of it will be the county because they have 2 legs of the intersection, and 1/3 would be ours. So the good news is, all in all, we're actually gonna get a better intersection and spend less money because of the HISIP grant.
So what's the city's, what would be on the hook for approximately?
I gotta look at that. Resolution. It's 106,000 is the design contract, so we'd be a third of that, so about 35,000, something ballparked.
I'm through there fairly often on my bike. You've indicated there has been a fatality at that intersection in the past
Correct.
year, or?
And that's one of the big things that the county wanted to do, and we did too, increase the scope to try to improve that crossing. If you remember, that crossing's kind of removed from the intersection a little, so they're outside of the actual signalized zone, and we're talking about bringing it in so that they can cross with a signal protection. And then there's some weird things going on. There's a truck climbing lane, or it was a
Yeah.
lane on the other side, and we're trying to kind of reduce that footprint and just kind of reorganize the intersection so it's a little clearer as to what people are gonna be doing. And so what we recommend, and we did a direct select with this because they have so much of the background knowledge with KL, and that's our recommendation, is to have KL do the design, because they've kind of have about 25 or 30% of the information already in their hands, so to be the most cost effective.
The road, the intersector road that goes up along the bike trail, that will not be part of the signalized intersection?
Correct, that's not impacted at all.
Okay. All right. Any questions, Sarah or Michael? All right. I will move to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R 100-20, signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye, it looks like we carry unanimously.
Yep, I'm abstaining.
And abstain. Kim is abstaining on this, so show 3 in favor, 1 abstain, the motion passes. Okay. Next, kind of one we've been working on for a while, Resolution R 83-20, authorizing acceptance of proposal with AE2S to conduct a stormwater study for Fitchburg Road and Goose Lake. I have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Okay, moved by Kim. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Granetsky. All right, Mike, you want to give us, I think this is pretty wrapped up here. You've been working
Sure.
on this for a while here.
And we had a long discussion, or not long, but we had a discussion last time. Last time we approved the joint agreement with the town of Verona, we had to do that before we could actually approve the contract, because both of us had to ratify that joint agreement for the additional monies. So this is just now bringing that contractor or that consultant on board to do the design study and to try to mitigate, eliminate, or reduce the flooding that's occurring on Fitchburg Road there.
Any questions?
I guess I have a question. When I looked at, the proposals and things you got, and then you got a revised proposal. So did you change the scope of the work between the initial proposal and the revised proposal?
We did. What we do a lot of times is, and that's what I alluded to with the Cyan Road project, a lot of times after the RFP process, we've really vetted a lot more information, and then a lot more comes to light. And what we did with that one is we had another scoping meeting with the selected consultant, and we found that there was some additional modeling that needed to be done to actually get a true sense of what was causing the flooding and how to mitigate that, and that was brought to light during the process. So yeah, we did add scope.
And then
And
we
we added
didn't
a-
kick that back out to the other vendors to reply.
We did not, and that's not typical, because typically we choose them on a quality-based selection, so then we negotiate the final fee after that selection. The other big thing that we added was a public information meeting, another one, because we know the downstream residents have been impacted with other projects and really want to have a lot of information, so we felt to get the project through, we would have to add that.
So we come up with a solution, and at some point, we move to implement it. At that point, that would be a public bid for whatever that solution is.
Correct, that'd be required to be publicly bid, because that's construction.
Any other questions?
And what is the timeline for completing this study?
Yeah.
It might be delayed a little. Originally, it was September, but we've delayed. It's taken a while to get through this process. But I would still say this fall or winter for the idea would be if it was constructible next year. And again, this is what I talked about last time. It depends on what the construction is. If it has to do with Fitchburg Road, it might wait till we redo Fitchburg Road. If it's something to do with the outlet structure on Goose Lake itself, that could happen independent of that project and have no impact.
Any questions, Kim or Michael? Sarah, I'm sorry. All right, then let's move to a vote. All in favor of Resolution R-83-20 signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, Resolution R-102-20, resolution approving a temporary pumping plan for the Sub-Zero kettle. So we have a motion, to approve Resolution R-102-20.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Granetsky. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Abdel, second. Discussion. So we're gonna pump it north over into the Seminole Pond, is that?
Correct, and it'll go by gravity from there. It's going to be pumped at a low rate and during non-rain event times, such to not have an impact. So two things with the pumping. It's a temporary pumping plan. I don't think it's our permanent solution, but what we want to find out, for one, is what kind of interface we have with groundwater, what kind of volume of water are we dealing with, and then the other big benefit. So we're going to do some monitoring wells and determine, what the impact is of our pumping. And then the other big thing is in the Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan, that kettle is supposed to provide back-to-back 100-year flood protection, but that's with the kettle being fairly empty to start with, and the fact that it's full, we don't have that protection. So we're hoping that pumping it will get us some flood protection out there if we would have a large rain event or a back-to-back event.
Mike, what effect will it have? We're reconstructing the Seminole Pond. It's all dug up right now. Will it have it, we're not gonna erode that,
No, I don't think it's gonna have a lot of impact, because what we're pumping, and if it does, we can do some things in there, like lay some pipe through that pond if it becomes an issue when we pump. It's not gonna happen, we're still in the process of purchasing the pump, so it isn't like it's gonna happen tomorrow or the next day. I mean, we're probably gonna look at trying to do this during the real dry weather of July and August.
Okay.
For the most part is what I would anticipate, unless we have a dry June, but that's when I see it happening, is probably in July.
So what hoops did you have to jump through? You're moving it kind of from a different watershed.
We had to get approval from the DNR, and we do have that approval in place. So there's a DNR approval in place, and then it's part of our MS4 permit. We can do it underneath our MS4 permit as well. So we've done basically all the hoops except for you guys and city council.
Well, there's been years, when that was all a farmland, dry years, the whole thing was farmed, at one time before the development started. I'm kind of interested what you're going to, what we're going to find.
Even when I was working as a consultant, I worked on the Harvest Haven building, and they were just starting to excavate that pond, and I remember scrapers being right in the middle where that wet pond is right now, that was that dry.
Yeah, or something.
So what year was that?
Oh, gosh, I don't even remember.
I mean,
But there were dry
7 or 8 years ago,
Okay.
9 years ago.
Yeah,
say, how long did it take it to fill? Because it's been full.
right away.
Yeah.
It was not long after they constructed it that then we got some wet weather and it was full. Like,
Yeah.
it was,
And it has no outlet, is that correct?
no natural
No
outlet.
natural outlet.
Yeah, that's correct.
So how would water ever get out of it?
Well, and that's part of our study, is we're looking at an overland flow gravity route to the south, which
Okay.
is difficult because it goes a long way, and it also goes to other areas that are flooded, but then everywhere we would take it would have that same issue. So we're trying to do something that we wouldn't have to permanently pump it. And this is where we've talked, and maybe I brought up to you guys, we've talked kind of with the solar farm that's going in down there and also Edgewood about maybe some synergy that they would let us maybe create some stormwater facilities on their lands to help mitigate the problem and save some costs. So that's a couple of things we're looking at.
Yeah, maybe to their advantage, you know, they're, not so much the solar farm, but if Edgewood, if they go in, they have impervious surface, and so they probably would be putting in some facilities themselves. So probably some negotiations that can be made.
We're encouraging them to use our water to irrigate.
Yes, that's,
So all this work is being done by city staff, Mike?
The pumping will be done by city staff, correct? That pumping in the plan has been created by city staff, correct?
Okay. I mean, I think it's a good idea because I think it's more of a data collection thing when you pump it down to see what exactly you're dealing with, and then it's gonna be a lot easier to try to figure out how to make it right.
Sure, and that's the intent. We just don't really know 100% what kind of volume of water. Like, is it mounded groundwater where it's just over this area, or is it just the groundwater height? Is
Yeah.
that, which might be a more difficult problem
Yeah,
to solve.
that'd be a bigger issue.
Yes.
so maybe Mike or Kim, maybe you can explain, what's our evaluation methodology?
We'll have monitoring wells in several locations, so as we're pumping, we'll be taking elevations on the water level to see what's happening to the water during a point in time, and we'll be monitoring the elevation, obviously, of the surface water as well, just to see how those kind of relate to one another. And then we'll also keep track of the data on the pump, so we kind of know how much water we pump in general
Okay,
overall. So we'll have hours and the pumping capacity.
all right. I'd be interested, it's, like I say, it filled up much faster than I expected. Are the other ponds north of there? Well, I assume those are all at a higher elevation than that one.
The first one that we're gonna pump into is, and then from there on, it's gravity.
Okay.
So we're pumping into what I call it the marketplace pond. I don't know if
Yep,
that's the
right
right
next to
name
my
for it.
office, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's where we're actually pumping. Then from there, it's gravity.
Okay, good.
And
How high-
like,
how
if
high
I'm
in-
reading the map on page 94 correctly, once it's in that marketplace pond, from there, it's gonna use underground storm sewer, get to the Seminole Village Pond, where then there's just kind of a ditch that goes into Dunn's March.
That's correct.
Okay. And it doesn't look like there's gonna be a lot of, that existing ditch that goes into Dunn's Marsh. Are there any concerns there at all?
Our
Is
pump,
that-
our pumping rate
Handle the
is,
additional capacity?
yeah, our pumping rate's gonna be lower than a large storm event. So it's, just because we're pumping to a 15-inch storm sewer, so we're pumping at a pretty small rate.
Okay,
The biggest concern is it's just gonna take a long time to pump.
okay,
And that's why you see us pumping in two locations. We're gonna pump from the north side of Sub-Zero Parkway to start with, so we don't have hose across the road for any longer than we have to. But that manhole has a higher elevation than what the pond is, so we can only pump it down so much from there. And then we will have to put some pipe ramps on the road and pump for a while across the road to get it to facilitate. But we're gonna pump as much as we can without impacting Sub-Zero Parkway.
okay.
And you're gonna pray for no big rainstorms while you're pumping.
That's correct. We don't want to pump just to lose ground.
All right, well, I'd be very curious to see, what we find. Hopefully, hopefully we're not gonna find there's an artesian right underneath there.
Well, and
There might be.
And that's part of the reason that I think that we wouldn't pump until a dry spell in July or August, because we want a decent forecast. Obviously, if we know there's a storm coming, we'll delay and just wait. Unless flooding's imminent, then we might be pumping for a different reason altogether.
Any other questions? Mike, Sarah, Kim? I will call the vote then. All in favor of Resolution R 102-20, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So we carry unanimously. Last one, Resolution R 104-20, purchase of 2020 F-550 dump truck equipment. We have a motion to approve.
Motion?
We have a second.
A second.
Second, okay. So this is, we previously approved the purchase of the truck. And so this is the auxiliary, the dump portion of it, or the auxiliaries on it, Mike, is that correct?
That's correct. And we do that so that the vendors know exactly what frame they're gonna be attaching their equipment to. So this would be a dump body, a salter, a pre-wetter for the salter, and the plow. So it's that complete system. This will be the first one we've done pre-wet on the smaller. This is the plow truck that does all the city parking lots, the, park facilities and those kind of things. And pre-wetting just makes the salt more effective, so you can use less salt. So that's why there's a little bit of an overrun initially, is because we're gonna do pre-wetting with this one, even on the smaller system, to try to be more effective with the salting. So, but we think we can make it up in the trade, and then we've got some other equipment. It's like anything, you've got to determine what's most important, so we're gonna give up some options on some other equipment that we have in the budget so that we can do this pre-wet system.
So I'll just, for the record, this is something back in February, we approved the truck. It was a 2008 truck, does that sound right, Mike?
It was, yeah.
So, kind of unprecedented times. I think if that purchase had come along a month and a half later, I would have said, can we make do another year? I realize we're Board of Public Works and not Finance, but I still feel like we need cognizant, Mike has found out, I'm asking pretty much everything if it can be delayed a year. Everyone sees what we have, the big projects we have going on, fire station. I just don't think we can afford to have our taxes go up on our residents this year. So the fact that we've already purchased the truck, it doesn't make sense to have that body and then not the rest of it. So I'm in favor of getting this, but again, if it had come a month and a half later, I think I would have asked them to try to make do another year. Anyone else have any comments on that?
Yeah, Mike, how much does the pre-wetter additional cost? I apologize if that's in here. I'm kind of looking through real quick.
I looked through my documentation that I brought down tonight, and I don't have the specific breakdown
Okay.
of what the pre-wet cost was. But there were several things in the options, that it wasn't that whole 14,000 was not pre-wet, believe me.
Okay.
We're talking like $3,000 or $4,000 in that neighborhood, I believe.
Every year we go through and we purchase salt, and it would be great for the board and future boards to kind of question, if we're adding on cost, what is the cost relative to the salt savings costs? And I think that would give us a good indication, Dave, of what you were saying before about making sure we're doing the right thing, but also making sure that we're doing it for the right reasons. If it's a pre-water and it's going to save us a bajillion dollars in salt costs and reduce storage costs and all that other good stuff, the kind of spend to cost ratio is always a fantastic metric to kind of look at. If it's just the newest and latest and greatest, then, may question the validity of what it is. But if it helps the effectiveness and we're laying less salt and there's a quick payback on something like that, that'd be great to understand.
Yeah, it's pretty tried and true technology. I mean, it's been around for a long time. We're definitely not on the front end of using pre-wet. We're probably maybe for parking lot. But I think the other thing that, besides just a cost savings in salt, is it's just a lot more effective. So you get a safer parking lot. You have less ice or, slippery spots because it'll stay there longer and be more effective for a longer period of time.
Else have any question? You mentioned there were some things we decided to give up or do without. Can you elaborate on anything there at all?
Wrong way, sorry. I can't tell you specifically, but I know it has to do with a ball diamond groomer. We're gonna nix some of the options that we were looking at on that for a couple reasons. One is obviously with this going on, we're not utilizing that this year. But two is we just feel that there's, honestly, a lot more bang for the buck in the pre-wet as far as what we get back for it. So we're just evaluating what makes the most sense for the dollars that we're spending.
I think that in the resolution, it says the pre-wet cost is $5,088. in the 1, 2, 3, 4th whereas. I remember reading it.
Any other questions?
And it's not the low bid, but the low bid did not have some of the requirements. They had a cheaper stainless steel, didn't have the plow that we asked for, and that's what our whole fleet has, that same brand of plow. I'm trying to think, there was another thing. Oh, and they had electric motor on the pre-wet system instead of hydraulic, and hydraulic's just a lot better functioning system, especially in that environment.
Would we expect the same, hopefully a little more than the 12-year life we got on the other one, or is that pretty typical? It seems like that's what we get out of our trucks.
It's probably typical just because of the use that they get, and they're doing a lot of urban, that's hard miles. They never get out on the highway where they really get opened up, and, that's hard on a vehicle. And then they're in a salt environment their whole,
Yeah.
very salty environment their whole life. So I would say that you're looking somewhere between 10 and 15, at 15 at the very top end for something like this.
Unless have any questions for Mike?
Just a quick caveat, the 5th whereas clause, looks like it should be a Ford F-350, not a Ford
Oh.
F-35.
It's not a 550?
No, the one where.
Purchasing is a 550.
Yeah, but it's
Correct.
replacing a,
350.
350, okay, thank you.
You're right. Yeah, the others would be,
Correct that in the, all right.
we'll definitely fix that. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Didn't know if we got more or less for an F-35.
Probably a lot less.
sounds like an airplane, doesn't it?
I will call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 104-20 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carry unanimously. Announcements, our next Board of Public Works meeting is June 8th. Anyone know their availability at this point? I'll be calling in on that one. I'll be out of town, but anyone not available? All right, sounds like everyone would be,
And one point is, I think from now on, the plan is to have every Board of Public Works. I know we canceled a few because of the COVID thing. I think at this point forward, the consensus is that we're gonna have every Board of Public Works unless there's a very pressing reason not to.
And who's going to be the staff person that's going to take over? Is Pat going to do it, or you don't know yet?
Yet to be determined.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, one other quick thing. Again, appreciate all your hard work. Just for the public at home, any changes to any sort of public parks, public works maintenance that we need to be aware of? Any mowing up, increases, decreases with everything going on at parks?
The big thing for parks is the summer rec program has been canceled in its entirety. And in addition, the splash pad is not going to open this year whatsoever. So those are the two biggest things. I think mowing will continue. We really want people in the parks. We just don't want them congregating in masses. But so I think the parks themselves, the playgrounds and the restrooms still will remain closed until something comes out from the health department that they would want those to be open. But because of the contamination and the cleaning requirements of a facility like that and the danger for contamination, I think those will remain closed probably for the duration of the summer unless something changes.
And then any updates to any of like playground structures, anything you've been made aware of, or is that just kind of guided by state policy at this point?
That's guided, really, we're following Dane County's lead on
County,
those for the most part. And right now, they're still remaining closed. And again, it's partially because of the cleaning. It's really difficult to decontaminate a piece of playground equipment on a daily basis. So that's really what's kind of precipitating that. So I think at some point, this thing will relax, but it could be late into the fall.
Okay. All right, so just kind of regular mowing and park maintenance.
We will, because we have we're not doing the ball fields. We're gonna do some maintenance on shelters, painting, those kind of things, additional stuff that are hard to do when the the shelters are being rented all the time and being used. So some of those things that we can get at now, we're not doing the ball field grooming and some of those things we'll have time for. So we will do some additional maintenance that we normally would not.
Great.
Any other questions? Just want to thank Mike. We've really enjoyed working with him. I'm very sad to be seeing him go. You know, like I say, I'm very professional, organized city engineer. I'm sure he's gonna, whoever he's going to work for is getting an excellent employee. So we'll miss you.
Thanks, and I meant it. It is bittersweet. I have nothing but good things to say about my time here and the job here, and it's been rewarding. It's just, sometimes you can't control when an opportunity comes. That surely was not my intent. I think we're on pace to where I wanted to lead the department. So that makes it real difficult because it's easy to leave a job that you don't like, but it's a lot harder to leave a job that you like with people that you like. So that makes it difficult to say the least.
Well, if you know anyone that you really like, make sure you give them, let them know there's an opening here. All right. With that, we're adjournment. All in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand in adjournment. Thank you.